I never really could quite find or had the right idea, or if I had an idea, I didn't know how to act on it. I've spent my life or my career so far working pretty much for large companies. This was an opportunity to jump into the entrepreneurial world, start a business from scratch.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 219. Can the Genius New York Accelerator help launch your UAS startup? For that question, we turn to Jonathan Parry, Director of Genius New York at the Tech Garden in downtown Syracuse, New York. The Tech Garden is home to Upstate New York's most promising technology startups. Genius New York is an accelerator program focused on unmanned systems. It will award up to $3 million in grand prizes during its 12-month in-residence business competition. The program focuses on early-stage technologies in the category of unmanned systems, including hardware, software, and analytics. John has more than 12 years' experience with startups and business development in the UAS industry. And in this edition of the Drone Radio Show, he talks about the Genius New York program and how it's advancing the creation of innovative UAS companies. Joining John is Ryan Pleskach, founder and chief operating officer of Resilienx, one of the companies in the current Genius New York program. Ryan shares what it's been like for him going through the accelerator experience and how it's helped evolve the company. But before we hear from John and Ryan, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Now you have the option of making a one-time donation in any amount by going to droneradioshow.com/donate. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. And if you'd like to make a monthly contribution, you can still go to patreon.com/droneradioshow. So let's find out how Genius New York is growing the drone industry. Let's pick up the interview where I asked John and Ryan to introduce themselves.
John Parry, Director of Genius New York.
Ryan Pleskach, Chief Operating Officer of Resilienx.
John, tell us about Genius New York.
Genius New York is an accelerator competition focused on the unmanned aerial systems industry. So we look for companies around the world that are focused on commercializing UAS or drone technologies. And it's part of a bigger effort that we're doing here in upstate New York and the central New York region to tie together higher level FAA regulation within our test site that is operated by New Air, along with other major corporations in the region that have worked on sensor and radar systems for military drone technologies. And the Genius component is really bringing in the innovators and entrepreneurs to this industry. So bringing new technology, new systems, new integration methods, and kind of bringing the best and brightest to the table to develop new technologies to support the growth of the UAS industry.
How long has it been active?
We are currently in our third year, our third cohort. We are funded as of right now for 2 additional years. So we currently have applications open for our Genius 4 program that will take place in 2020. It's a 1-year program, starts in January, and we run it in 2 phases. The first 3 months are focused around kind of business essentials, basic business operations of creating your business plan, identifying who your target customers are, your financial pro forma statement, and then actually working on a pitch deck and getting you ready for the second phase of the competition. So the 5 teams that are selected into the program compete for the top prize of a $1 million investment. But second place is not falling short, as the other 4 teams do receive $500,000 of investment. And that happens after about 3 months in the program. And the phase 2 is really, we just work with the teams to execute on their strategy, bring in customers, let them prove their concepts and prove their technology commercialization. And a lot of them also help raise capital towards the end of the year to continue to grow their business.
Are the companies at any particular stage? For example, do they primarily have an idea that needs to be nurtured, or do most of them have something in development?
It depends. We look at companies that are as early as the idea stage. It could be a technology transfer out of a university. It could be a subject matter expert that believes there's an opportunity based on their research or development. And then, quite often we also get serial entrepreneurs that have built and sold companies and believe that this industry around automation and data analytics and UAS integration is a great opportunity. So we're open to all different levels of experience from the founder status, but we do look for the earlier stage companies that maybe have not raised capital, maybe have been funded by SBIR grants or other funding, or have done very early stage friends and family or kind of pre-seed investment. So we really consider the Genius Prize more of like a seed investment, and then we help the teams go out and potentially raise a Series A or beyond. And ideally, many of them can generate revenue through a new customer base as well that we can help bring to the table.
As an accelerator, I assume that Genius New York has an arrangement where it takes a position in the companies, which then becomes part of its overall portfolio.
Correct. It is a 1-year commitment for the teams to relocate to Central New York. So that is one thing we do ask of the teams. Sometimes it's their entire team, sometimes it's components of it. We do take an equity stake in the companies. We take 5% for the $500,000 investment and 8% for the $1 million. And other than the requirement of staying, the advantage is really to the teams of being part of this ecosystem that we're generating. Many of the teams work together as far as software development or providing other services that they may not have expertise in. And it's been a very successful program in the sense that teams can and have the opportunity to work together, but then also share their thoughts on the industry, how they're raising capital, how they're going to market. And as you know, a lot of people have a lot of speculations on where the industry is going. So it's great when you have 17 teams under one roof that can really help shape some of that development and share insights about different partners they're working with across the country and across the world.
Geographically, where are the companies coming from?
Literally at this point around the world. Our first year, more of a focus in the Northeast, most of our applications, but pretty steadily across the U.S. In the last couple of years, we've been getting a lot more of international applicants. Part of that is a lot of international companies want to operate in the U.S. So this is a good opportunity to get funding, getting a landing zone near a FAA designated test site around other like-minded people. We've brought in 3 international teams, one from Switzerland, Photokite, one from Israel, Civdrone, and one from Italy, Sentient Blue.
John, can you talk about the application process?
Yeah, we open our application period essentially at the AUVSI Exponential Conference. So we've had the applications open for about a month now. We will close them in early October. So that's our window for teams to apply. And at that point, we go through the selection process and we announce the 5 finalist teams in December.
And which cohort are you in?
Right now, we're operating our 3rd cohort and we're looking for applicants for our 4th cohort.
What were some of the results coming out of the first 2 cohorts?
We've had a lot of good developments with those teams. One, many of their teams have grown from 1 or 2 founders to teams of 3, 4, 5, some larger. One other exciting thing is we've had multiple projects where teams have been contracted with either large corporations or with other small to medium-sized companies. So they're generating customers. Many of them have won other state or federal funding opportunities to do research and development and integration. But quite a few of them have actually gone on to raise, Series A venture capital. For example, Photokite, who develops a tethered drone for the public safety market, recently closed on about a $3.2 million Series A round. So they're using a lot of that funding to grow their office in the U.S., in Central New York, here in Syracuse. And they're also using that money to get their first real product on fire trucks and in the market. And they're just growing very rapidly. So that's the kind of path we like to see these teams take. Some take a little bit longer if they're in the earlier stages. Some are waiting for FAA regulation to catch up a little. But we think having a diverse investment of teams, it gives us an advantage that we're not always looking for the fastest growing company out there. We may invest in a training company because we believe that's an important part of the ecosystem. We invested in a micro-weather data company because we know that's going to be really integral for, beyond visible line of sight for drones to essentially complete their mission. So we look for all different types of technologies and we just help them any way we can to make them grow and create jobs and build this ecosystem right here in central New York.
Is Genius New York looking for any particular technology or services?
A general trend has been a little bit more towards software versus hardware. Not to say that we do not invest in hardware companies. We do have quite a few, but we're seeing more software-based companies focused on autonomous flight, mission planning, fleet management, weather and integration. One trend we would like to move a little more into are data analytics companies. So maybe a company that is focused on data or transferring data, storing data, how to interpret data is really critical. Machine learning, AI, we think will play a big role in the industry to unfold. So I would say those are a couple trends that we're going to be looking for companies. Even if a company is on the data side, but not really thinking about the drone market, we would encourage companies to apply if they think that this could be another vertical for their technology platform to grow.
Okay, Ryan, let's talk about your experience with Genius New York. First, give us the name of your company and tell us what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having us today. So Resilienx is a software company, and we bill ourselves, our branding is we're the check engine light for the commercial UTM ecosystem. But really what that means is we are trying to provide the air traffic controller and the safety aspect, what air traffic controller does for manned aviation, to unmanned aviation in the drone industry. Right now, we see a hole in the industry where a lot of companies are very hardware focused. Everybody wants to fly, and everybody is in a rush to integrate different things and different components into these drone ecosystems with the goal of achieving, the mission, achieving flight. What we're focused on is we think there's a value proposition that with all this urgency, people are sometimes, we see in a lot of pilots and demos that software versions can be changed without notice, firmware can be changed without notice. So when you get 15 or 20 companies all working together and trying to integrate these complex systems, things can get missed. And our software is meant to kind of provide that safety aspect. We're building a display for the operators, the system operators, not the drone operators, that can display, here are all the components that the system is monitoring. It can alert you if there's an error or a fault in the system. And ideally, we're building a health and integrity monitoring system to detect faults, isolate them, and allow a system to operate through a fault. We want to prevent the cascading errors.
Who do you feel is going to be the primary user of the system?
John will tell you, this is something that we struggled with when we started the program. And that's one of the benefits of the Genius New York program is they provide resources to us and help us focus on some of the aspects where we might be weaker, per se, from a business perspective. We've got exceptionally talented engineers. The Genius program made us take a step back and focus on that very question. Who is the user? And through our customer discovery, our market research, and now some of the people that we've started selling to, it looks like the DOTs are taking a role nationally as far as who's going to be the user. DOTs are organizing these UTM systems. They are putting out proposals for creating statewide UAS implementation programs. So we think it's going to kind of roll out and follow how DOTs are already organized. There's usually a state headquarters office, and then there are district or regional headquarter offices. So we think that there's going to be a user at each of those locations who is going to be monitoring the system. And the goal is our software will be running in the background, and we've named it Framework, the Fault Recovery and Isolation Health Monitoring Framework that can identify the faults, alert the operator. The system maintainer is maybe a better word. Alert the system maintainer to a problem, and they can go in it and address it and fix it.
Were you specifically looking for an accelerator environment when you applied to Genius New York?
We were exploring the idea of whether this was a business or whether it was simply a product or service that could be rolled under an existing business. When my partner, my co-founders, kind of first approached the Tech Garden and the Genius program, we have essentially two companies, and the parent company is a small business, an engineering services company, and it's an LLC. So it's not really set up for investment. So we decided to set up Resilienx as a C Corp and We put resilience into the Genius program or into the application pool with the idea being that it's a C Corp and it can scale and it's set up to accept funding and venture capital and can kind of grow with the drone industry as we expect it to grow over the next few years.
What was it about the Genius program that you found attractive?
Well, for us, we're the local team. We're from Syracuse. A lot of us went to Clarkson University, which is in upstate New York or northern New York, and we relocated to Syracuse. So for us, this is home. And we got the opportunity to work out of the Tech Garden originally. So John and my co-founder Carter, they worked closely together at the Tech Garden for a few months, and we decided that this was a great idea. It was worth an application, and having been guaranteed $500,000 in funding to get your business off the ground is a no-brainer.
John, from your perspective, what differentiates Genius New York from other accelerator programs?
The biggest differentiator for the Genius New York program is our very specific focus on unmanned systems, specifically unmanned aerial systems. Although we will look at companies related to IoT, automation, and data analytics, bringing in all these companies that are working in the same industry. And we do work very hard not to bring in companies that have competitive technologies. So if we have in year one, we had a training company that pretty much checks our box. We're not going to invest in another training company unless they have something uniquely different from the one we had previously invested in. So creating an environment where these teams can be collaborative and then providing the other resources that New York State has brought to the table. We have a significant amount of funding that has been earmarked by New York State, provided by Governor Cuomo to support our test site. We have a UAS jobs fund here in the region. So if a company wants to relocate here, there is a fund to reduce the cost of hiring employees. And it's rather significant, up to $55,000 per job. So there's all these benefits of operating your business out of the central New York region. And I think that's what differentiates us from different accelerators. I'll also mention that, I know in some programs, I won't name any specifically, but they really focus more on a platform of, okay, you got in the program, here's some money, here's a list of, mentors you can reach out to, good luck. And although that model can work for a lot of experienced entrepreneurs, we invest in earlier stage companies that a lot of our founders are engineers, scientists. They do not have the business acumen for, writing a business plan, doing customer discovery, putting together a due diligence data room for investors. So we can also bring that to the table through a whole staff that is there to support them, from contracts and legal to an investor network, and also mentors that have built and sold companies that are available for these startups to gain more knowledge and experience. So I think when you combine all of that together, it really creates a unique atmosphere for companies in this industry, for a place to help them, not just allow them to grow, but help them grow.
Ryan, how long have you been in the program?
We have been in the program just since the beginning of the year. We're one of this year's teams. We're maybe one of the longer plays that John mentioned earlier because we're such a new business. We like to tell John that we convinced him and the judges to let us into the program with an idea and a whiteboard drawing. But it's been a fantastic experience so far. Even working with the other teams, we enjoy really our friends from Eaglehawk out of Buffalo and Vermeer in New York City, and Sentient Blue out of Italy is tremendous. And John, I'm forgetting the fifth team. Sibdrone out of Israel. We've been able to make friends with a lot of the other companies. And just the other day, I played golf with John Bird from Eaglehawk. And it's just been a wonderful experience getting to know people, sharing business insight. We're all in the drone industry, so picking up tidbits of information that from one company to another and understanding how the companies can work together. We're talking about going in together on some proposals where larger proposals are looking for a multitude of services and not just a niche field. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities ahead. And for us, it's been a tremendous 6 months.
You mentioned that the program helped you hone in on your target market. In what other ways did you feel the program has benefited you and your company?
The ability to bounce ideas off of somebody quickly and get that outside perspective. The staff that the Genius hires, they're all familiar with the drone industry because they've been doing this for several years now. But our engineers, if they get really buried into their work, and sometimes you can have tunnel vision. But bouncing things and ideas or proposals, concepts off of Tech Garden and the Genius New York staff is a tremendous benefit. It allows us to that outside look or the outside vision and perspective, or maybe you should do A instead of B. And it's really helped us in our professional development and understanding of how different steps we can do with the business and not pivot, but how we can maybe take a different step or zig when we should zag and develop our business, take our business to the next level.
How are you guys fitting into the local drone ecosystem?
We've got a great relationship with the Griffiths test site and New Air because we all came from SRC previously. And so we know a lot of those people. We've done prior work with them. So our relationship with those two groups specifically is tremendous right now. But with the community, there are a lot of things that, like Drones Over Downtown is coming up in August. And we're excited to be the local business representing Syracuse in the Genius New York program. You know, it's this worldwide program, and this little tiny company from Syracuse is one of the leaders in this industry. So we're excited to show off that capability and our talented people at that event in August. We're not afraid to introduce other companies to our contacts. And, you know, we firmly believe in network karma. If we can help another company, whether it's a drone related company or not, if we can leverage them in any way, we're always willing to do that. And with the hopes that down the road, it will come back twofold for us in the future.
You mentioned Drones Over Downtown. What is that?
Drones Over Downtown is an event we started a couple years ago in Syracuse to bring awareness to the community about the ecosystem being built here, the types of companies and opportunities that the general public may not be aware of. I think there's a challenge in any city or region that is trying to invest in commercial drone technologies that sometimes the public does not have the most positive outlook on drones. They've primarily been for military use, typically known for surveillance. And I think that can create pressure for these companies to thrive in a community if there is not awareness. So we tackle that in part by doing a large event in downtown Syracuse and bringing the community in and saying, hey, come fly a drone, come meet some of the companies that are developing cutting edge technologies. And also think about this as a potential career for you. Are you a software engineer, mechanical engineer? Do you like doing maintenance and repair? Do you want a side job? You know, companies are always looking for Part 107 pilots. We host training programs with SkyOp right here out of the Tech Garden, which is where we operate the Genius New York program. The Tech Garden is a business incubator in Syracuse. So the whole Drones Over Downtown is kind of a lighthearted event where it's more about fun and education, but there is an underlying effort there to make the community aware of what we're doing. And when someone hears about a new drone company, their reaction is a positive one.
So, Ryan, you're going to be like the local rock star at this year's event.
It's awful hard to be a rock star company when you are a software company. You don't have a widget or a doodad to show off, or, you know, in this case, we don't have a drone to fly around and show people. But we're happy to be part of this ecosystem. We like to think of ourselves as a force multiplier for this local ecosystem. We do have a lot of great industry contacts, and some of our engineers are on some of the standards committees that are actively determining the policy and regulations that, you know, in the next year or so that are really going to set the future for this industry. So it comes back to that network karma I spoke about, just trying to influence the industry and then help grow the industry here in Syracuse locally. We'll do anything we can to help support that. And showing up at Drones Over Downtown is one of those activities. We're happy to be there and put our best foot forward and help show off the local area.
Ryan, you're about halfway through the program. Can you tell us what you hope to accomplish in the next 6 months?
Yeah, that's a great question. We had some exciting news today. We won 2 NASA SBIRs that were just announced a couple of hours ago. So great timing for this. That's really going to help us validate the need for our solutions and our work in the market and in the future of what NASA and the FAA are thinking as far as where the drone industry is going for the U.S. So we're going to be working on those SBIRs. They're phase 1 SBIRs, so they're worth about $125,000 each. And we hope to convert them into phase 2 SBIRs. Both of them would then be worth about $750,000 each. So we hope to use that money over the next year or so to really fund development of our MVP product. But we are already working with several locations about contracts to integrate our software solution with their UTM systems. We're chasing the opportunities both in the U.S. and internationally, Australia and Switzerland, North Dakota. We're hoping to work with them, Ohio, here locally with New Air. So there's really a lot of exciting opportunities for us. And the next 6 months is really, for us, is about finishing our MVP and trying to get it to as many of those test sites as possible.
John, can you share a little about the other 4 companies in this year's cohort?
Sure. We'll start with Eagle Hawk. Eagle Hawk has been in operation for quite a few years doing commercial roof inspections, thermal roof inspections for flat commercial industrial roofs. They're probably one of the market leaders with over 700 roofs inspected throughout the U.S. We typically don't invest in service-based companies, but they applied for Genius to get funding to develop a software as a service. So it's more of a roof and facilities management platform. So they are currently underway developing that software that will be then integrated into their customer base, and they're still rapidly expanding, how many roofs they're inspecting per month. And I think they'll be doubling, revenue year over year, and they've successfully done that. So I think they have a great track record, and they're the type of team that we look at as a large growth potential if they integrate software into their existing service business. Another one of our teams, Civ Drone out of Israel, they use drones to put stakes in the ground for marking. So when you think of land surveyors that manually go out, 2 people with the instrumentation, identifying locations to mark on construction sites or solar sites. This is a very manual process. And actually, anytime you bring humans into a process, there can be mistakes, which then creates a lot of rework, and it's very costly to the construction firm, and it can set back project schedules. With their drone, the drone uses a very accurate placement of the stakes. They can hold multiple stakes at once, and they can accomplish the job much cheaper and much faster. So they have been growing steadily. They have their prototype out in the market. They have multiple project sites lined up this year. There's a lot of interest in the construction world, in the surveying world, to implement their technology. So they are doing really well, and they should have an announcement soon about some additional capital they've just raised through the venture capital world. Let's see, we have Vermeer out of Brooklyn, a really exciting software, and you can actually download it on the App Store. It is a flight pre-visualization in augmented reality. So when you use your phone, you will get a 3D map, a 3D rendering of a city or a location, and it allows you to fly the camera. So instead of thinking about where the drone is going, a lot of media, cinema, movies, television shows, advertising, real estate, it's all about what picture or what camera shot the drone is getting. And this allows you to create the flight path and show exactly what your video is going to be, what the camera shot will be in a 3D environment. So it allows movie producers or television producers to essentially get over the struggle of trying to describe the shot they want. They can create the shot right on their phone or computer. They can send it directly to the drone operator. Any DJI drone can then upload the flight path, and they go and fly it, and you get exactly what you wanted. That has a lot of great potential in this market, and we're really excited to see where they go. And our $1 million winner this year, Sentient Blue, they are building their team in Syracuse, as they were based in Italy. They're hiring people now, and they're building a hybrid micro turbine that will essentially extend the range of a typical drone from 20 or 30 minutes to potentially over 2 hours. So they're building these prototype units. They should have units ready to fly in the fall. And I think with the need for longer endurance flight, they're going to have a huge market opportunity ahead of them.
What do you look for when selecting a company for the program?
It's always interesting. People ask, what is the main attribute you look for in a team? And it really depends. Sometimes we invest because we believe it's such a great technology. It's going to be a game changer. There's a huge need in the market, and these are subject matter experts that can make it happen. Other times we'll look at a team and say, these are serial entrepreneurs. They've had proven track record, happy to take a little bit more of a risk on the technology because we know these founders can make it happen. And then in the case of Ryan and his team at Resilienx, we really believe that it was a little early. The market's still maturing. There's a lot of discovery to be done on where and who will be integrating unmanned traffic management systems across the country, across the world. But the team they brought to the table were very experienced engineers that came from a local defense contracting firm. And we believe they were just a great ecosystem partner because they already know and are working with the majority of the test sites, all the major companies that are doing integration. And we just felt that they, one, had a good idea and it was needed in the market, but they would bring a lot to the table as far as networking and connections. So, we look for all different types of attributes from companies. It's hard to say what the perfect mix is, but always need a good team and a good technology. And if you've got those two, you're definitely a candidate for the Genius program.
John, what are the next steps for the program as you work with this current cohort?
At this point, we really have to customize around each team's needs. So some of those teams are really focused on raising capital. So although $500,000 seems like a lot, if you build a team, 3 or 4 or 5 people, it can go very quickly. And teams need capital to grow, to build product, to put product in the market. So we do a lot of investor-focused events. We hold one in New York City, Boston, and also a couple up here in central New York. So we continue to expand that network every year. So that's a big piece of it. Bringing customer opportunities to them. Sometimes it's through our connections with different test sites or like the New York State DOT or DEC or local fire companies, depending on their specific industry. We can help make connections there. And then on top of all of that is just the general mentoring. If there's something the teams need, we will find a way to help them. We will find if we can't solve the problem or assist them, we easily can find somebody who can. We've built a really great network of professionals in the industry, leaders in the industry. And, one thing we found in an emerging market like this, people know that it's very early. They know that there's just a lot of risk being involved in it, but there's a lot of opportunity. And although it is very competitive, a lot of companies know that's going to be such a large market that there doesn't need to be one defined winner in every category, that there's a lot of room for collaboration. And at this early stage in the industry, there's a need for that collaboration. So we're always actively trying to support that.
What about the next cohort? Can people begin submitting applications?
Yeah, so the applications are currently open. You go to geniusny.com and you'll start the application process. There's a handful of questions you do have to answer just about who your team members are, basic summary of the company, pretty basic questions. The main components of the application are uploading a business case. This is something sometimes people go a little overboard on. We're really looking for a document that's 10, maybe 15 pages, that high-level overview of your company, executive summary, your competitive advantage, team, your basic components of a business case. There is a template on there if people aren't familiar with it. We also ask for some basic financials if the company has been operating or their projected use of funds if they were in the program. And then also a pitch deck gets looked at the most. It's kind of our first thing to look at. This is just a PowerPoint of the basic components that you would provide to an investor. So those are the key things we look for. We're also very accessible. People can reach out to us through our website. They can ask questions. If they're serious about joining the program and they want to come visit us, that's more than welcome. We actually encourage it. Because of the 1 year in residence requirement, Syracuse, for some people, is not a huge change, but for companies coming from Israel or the Silicon Valley area or New Mexico, it can be a little bit of a shock, mainly due to weather. We're a mid-sized city, but we have 4 distinct seasons. I think everybody who's come into the program has really enjoyed it, and we do a lot of activities together to get them acclimated to the area throughout the year.
Ryan, can you share what this experience has meant to you personally?
Oh, absolutely. I have always wanted to take the entrepreneurial leap. I never really could quite find or had the right idea, or if I had an idea, I didn't know how to act on it. I've spent my life or my career so far working pretty much for large companies, typical government contracting work. This was an opportunity to jump into the entrepreneurial world, start a business from scratch. And truth be told, it's about the safest way you can do a startup if you've got that kind of startup funding behind you. It helps with getting your wife and your family on board to let you take that kind of leap. But it's been a great experience, and I wouldn't trade anything in the last 6 months for it.
And for my final question, John, what message would you like to leave about Genius New York and its role in the drone industry?
Well, I think if there's entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about starting their own business, this is a great first step. One, if you're selected into the program, it really provides a lot of validation to your concept or your technology. So I really encourage people, even in the very early stages of ideation or creating a business, you don't even have to have an LLC to apply, or a S Corp. This is something that can be done after you're selected into the program. And people are often surprised sometimes of how early stage some of the teams we select are. But, we do this with purpose. And we believe that there's a lot of technologies that need to be brought to the industry that are not currently there. And a lot of these subject matter experts are, they are potentially working at a defense contractor right now. They're scared of starting a business. And as Ryan said, I think this is a really great segue into starting a business, because not only do you get a significant amount of funding at very friendly terms, you get a whole network and team of supporters. So I would just really encourage, if anybody's out there on the fence, take a closer look, reach out to us, ask any questions. I'd also mention to people that want to work in this industry, of the 17 investments we've made, there are dozens of jobs. They're looking to fill positions right now. You can visit some of their websites. And even in the central New York region, companies like Saab Census and SRC, they're continuously hiring. And these are high-paying engineering jobs. We can't keep up with the demand of filling these jobs. So, really consider central New York if you really want to be working in the UAS industry. It's a great place to live, a great place to work, and a lot of opportunities lie right here in this emerging industry.
That's it for episode 219 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Jonathan Parry of Genius New York and Ryan Pleskach of Resilienx. I want to thank John and Ryan for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Genius New York or want to connect with John or Ryan, check out the webpage at geniusny.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate or patreon.com/droneradioshow. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.